Today I'm going to do a higher level club account, just part A, finding the accumulated fund at the 1st of the 1st, 2015. The question is Stratford Golf Club. You have it in your handout, but if you don't have this question, I can post it up on Teams. So I'm going to start. The accumulated fund is got by finding your total assets at the beginning of the year and taking away total liabilities at the beginning of the year. In the higher level section, it's straightforward at the top where we're given assets and liabilities, and I will explain each of those in a minute. However, there are other hidden assets and liabilities at the beginning of the year, and we must look for those. I have marked 1, 2, 3 and 4 here on your question sheet. Number 1, the receipts and payments account is actually a bank account. I need to look on the debit and on the credit side at the top of this question to find the opening balance. In this particular question, the opening bank balance is on the credit, which means that we have an overdraft, which means that my bank balance is a liability, 8,500 at the beginning of the year. Number 2, I see that we've got interest from investments on the debit side. But when I examine the top of the question, there are no investments mentioned at the top. However, we could not receive interest if we didn't have investments at the beginning. So I will need to do a calculation to find out what the value of my investments are at the beginning of the year. I will do that with you in a few minutes. Thirdly, on the credit side, we see that at the end of year 15, we repay a loan with interest. I could not repay a loan if I didn't have a loan at the beginning of the year. So again, I will do a calculation with that one for you shortly. And the fourth, number 4, I have marked with receipts of subscriptions this year. Down at the last one, number 4 said there was a levy for year 2014 of €50 on 20 members. That is a levy that was related to last year. That means that levy must have been due at the beginning of year 15. So I am ready now to start my list of assets and liabilities at the beginning of the year. I will show you the answer and I will go through the figures that we need to do a calculation for. My first asset at the top of the page is a clubhouse and course, 650,000, that's straightforward and you get 1 mark for it. Secondly, bar stock 6,000, that's straightforward, 6,000 goes down with your assets. My equipment 24,000, equipment is an asset, straightforward, put down your equipment. My bar debtors 355, an asset, put that down. The next one that's mentioned at the top is life membership. Life membership will go down with the liabilities. Life membership means some of the club members have paid their subscription for the rest of their lives. So really they are owed a favour by the club. Life membership is a liability. Bar creditors, a liability, goes down with the creditors, or liabilities. Wages due, an expense due is a liability, goes down with the liabilities. Levy reserve fund is a liability, and I'll briefly explain that. Sometimes clubs might decide to buy a piece of land, for example. They have They want to buy a piece of land in the future. They need to get money for that. So they put a levy on the members of the club. It's a once-off payment, or maybe it's a payment that they make for over a few years. But it's non-refundable to the members, but it's earmarked for a particular project, for example, for buying land. So it's regarded as being a liability for the club. Subscriptions prepaid. Subscriptions prepaid are an income prepaid. Incomes prepaid are a liability. So subscriptions prepaid is a liability. The members have paid their subscriptions in advance. They are owed a favour from the club. Investment interest due is an income due. An income due is an asset, so that goes with the assets. Now we come to doing certain calculations. So the next one, I said look at number one. Number one is the opening bank balance. The opening bank balance is on the credit side, so the opening bank current account balance goes with the liabilities. Number two, interest from 4% investments. We need to do a calculation to calculate the value of the investments. So the interest that I receive, the interest from the investments that I actually received was 2,400. But that is not necessarily 4% of a number, because I go to the top of the question, there was investment interest due at the beginning. Interest due at the beginning means that interest was related to last year. Due at the beginning is taken away. Due at the beginning is taken away. So it's interest for last year. I go down to the end of the question and I see that there's investment interest due for this year. Due at the end of the year is added on. So that means that 2,500 is my interest related. Related means that interest is actually 4% of a number. 2,500 is 4% of a number. Or if you want to say it's 0.04 of a number. Find the number. We have been doing this by, you can cross multiply. You will find that the number ends up being 62,500 is the number. That means that was the value of the investments that should go down with the assets. So 62,500 is the figure for your investments. That goes with the assets. Now we continue that's number two. Number three, I have written down that we repaid a loan and interest, and the total figure is 33,000. The interest on that loan is 8% is the interest for a year. Per annum is per year. There is 15 months interest on this loan. 12 months is 1 year. 15 months is an extra 3 months. 3 months is a quarter of the year. So another quarter of 8% is 2% interest. So actually the total amount that figure, 33,000, it's equal to 110% of a number, because it includes the loan plus 10% interest. If that figure is equal to 110% of a number, find the number. you will find that the actual loan was 30,000. That was the figure for the loan. So the 3,000 is the interest. So you put your 30,000 down here with your liabilities for the loan. Now I need to work out how much interest was due at the beginning of the year. How much interest was due at the beginning of the year? The total interest that we pay is 3,000. So the total interest that we pay is 3,000. That's for 15 months. 1 month's interest is 200. When I repay this loan, I repay it on the end of December year 15. 12 months interest is related to this year. The other 3 months interest must have been due at the beginning of this year. It must have been belonging to last year. 3 months multiplied by €200 is equal to 600. So interest due at the beginning of the year is 600. Now we have done as far as number 3. So we're just left with one more item to put into my accumulated into my assets and liabilities to find my accumulated fund. So the last item is note number 5, subscriptions include certain figures. And number 4, it says subscriptions include a levy for year 14 of €50 for 20 members. So if you multiply 50 by 20, you will find out that your levy due is 1,000. That figure must have been due at the beginning of this year because it's a levy that was due, money that the members owed for last year's levy. So levy due, it's really like a debtor to the club. 1,000 goes in with my assets. If I total all my assets now, total all my liabilities, take my liabilities from my assets, I get my accumulated fund. My accumulated fund of the club is similar to capital of the business.